So let me simply close by asking, what do you believe? Or what do you say you believe? And then the question is, do you really believe it? Are you living what you say you believe? The God of the Bible, He gives us everything, and He expects us to know that that's true. That's not a cliche. He gives us everything. If you have business acumen, if you have capital, if you have talent, you have any kind of power, social connections, anything you have, including your health, your ability to breathe, your ability, in our case, to live in a free country where you can say stupid things and that's protected. You can say anything you like. Everything you have is a gift from God. And God says, I give this to you for my purposes. So I want to challenge you tonight. Think about what you have and think about what you're doing with it. Ask yourself, am I using these things to the glory of the God who has given them to me? And then if you're not sure, ask yourself, do you really believe that these things are yours, or do you believe that God gave them to you? I want to submit to you that everything you have is in fact a gift from God. It's a treasure. He has given you amazing things, and whatever He has given you, He has given it to you for His purposes. One of the things you can do with it, obviously tonight, it's why we're here, is to fight for the cause of religious freedom around the world. Where would we be today if people had been fighting the good fight for decades, for centuries, for generations? There have been people fighting the good fight God's way. That's the only way to fight. And so I want to challenge you, what do you believe, and are you actually living it? And I want to say that's the only way to go out of this world. Bonhoeffer, when he went to the gallows, think of this. Think of this. He wasn't wringing his hands thinking, oh, darn, if only I would have done this, if only I would have done that. Bonhoeffer went to the gallows with the peace of God because he knew that he had obeyed God. In 1933, 12 years before he died, and I close the book with this, he preached a sermon about death. And in that sermon, he was talking to a typical Lutheran audience. You know, most of them were not terribly serious about their faith, but they were Lutherans, they were Germans, they showed up on a Sunday, and they've got this bespectacled, hyped up, German theologian pastor who really believes this stuff. Don't you hate that when you get one of those preachers? Yeah, it's convicting. And Bonhoeffer is preaching about death, and he says that death is the most terrible thing imaginable, unless it's transformed by faith. But if you have ever actually glimpsed the God of the Bible, if you've ever glimpsed the kingdom of heaven, you are from that moment homesick to be with Him, because you know that this God who really exists has actually, in fact, conquered death. It's not a fairy tale, it's not a cliche, it's not a nice thing we tell ourselves, but it's actually true. He has conquered death. And because He has conquered death on the cross, you are free. You are utterly free from the fear of death and from death itself. You're free to live your life with the joy of knowing Him and serving Him, and death has no sway over you. Bonhoeffer believed that in 1933, and he believed it 12 years later when he went to the gallows. My friends, that's the only way to live. That's the only way to die. We're all going to die. We know that. So the only question is, what are we going to do between now and that day? Are we going to worship the God who has already conquered death and who frees us to be who He made us to be? Or are we going to say, I don't know, I don't know? Let me simply say that Bonhoeffer is an inspiration to me personally because he really believed this. I think God gives us saints, even evangelicals believe that. You wouldn't know that, but it's true. That we believe that God gives us these stories of people to inspire us, because it's hard to believe this stuff. In a secular culture like this, it's very hard to believe this stuff. But Bonhoeffer lived it, and I think is an example to us that it's true, and God desires that each of us without exception, live that kind of life. That would change the world. So let me recommend that to you. And let me say in closing again, Christos Anesti. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.